are listening to WHOA Podcast, coming to you from Gainesville, Florida. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the WHOA GNV Podcast, and a new segment that I'm calling the Purpose-Filled Podcast Pop-Up. You like that, Mike?
That's a lot of P's.
It's triple P. It's my version of PPP. You guys, look, I'm super nervous about this episode. I've already told Alex and Mike that. Definitely have the butterflies going, and it's because I'm really stepping outside of my comfort zone with this. But the one thing that I've learned in entrepreneurship is in life, you grow, right? You grow when you step outside of the comfort zone. So in light of recent events and the murder of George Floyd, which has just impacted the world, the ripple effects of a single event are just absolutely incredible and haunting. And there's so many words to describe it, right? But I wanted to discuss it. I wanted to invite a good friend of mine onto the show. And I want to be a voice, right? I want to contribute to change. And so this is a platform that I believe God has given me and Michael to really create that change. And we've already seen the impact that it's had on our community. Yes, this is a podcast that's very focused on businesses, but there's been a lot of impact on businesses through this. And I think we can bring in ties of leadership and multiple things through this. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce our guest. Okay. So you guys, today on the show, we have former wide receiver for the University of Florida Gators and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and now CEO of his company, Leadership Surge. He's one of the most fantastic leaders, husbands, and fathers that I am honored to call a friend and know. Someone that I just absolutely love very much, Mr. Alex Willis. Dude, it's so good to see you, man.
Dude, it's good to see you too, man. Thanks for having me, guys. I'm super excited to be here with you guys. I'm super excited to talk. Nervous too, dude. I'm nervous too, man.
I was reflecting back, it was episode 4, I think. Or no, episode
super
3.
Early.
Episode 3. You were one of the first episodes.
OG.
It's still one of my favorite,
baby.
Still one of my favorite episodes. So I want to make sure that I really want to frame this up for our audience. So Alex, I hope you're cool with this. I want to start by reading the email that I sent you.
Yeah, please do.
Is that all right?
That's perfectly fine.
So you guys, I sent Alex an email just a couple of nights ago. And I'm gonna try to make it through this without getting emotional.
Hey, I know, man. Me and you both, dude. Me and you both.
But I said, Alex, I can't get this off my mind. One of the biggest problems, in my opinion, when it comes to racism is silence. I believe that many people are just uncomfortable talking about it, and shamefully, I would put myself in that category. I naturally try to avoid something that has a chance of being confrontational. I've had a fear of possibly saying something wrong and offending someone, or my good intentions being twisted by someone, etc. But damn it, enough is enough. The evil in this world must be overcome by good. Love must suffocate hate. I'm in tears as I write this. I'm in tears because I couldn't imagine losing a friend like you if that were you pinned to that ground. I'm in tears because I'm white and I will never really be able to empathize with what my Black friends have to go through. I'm in tears because I want to see communities pull together, but I'm seeing Minneapolis being torn apart right before my eyes. I feel like I'm being called to talk about it in the best way that I know how, on camera and on the microphone. I have to be a voice for this community. I have to lift others in times of darkness. I have to be part of God's will to suffocate hate. I need your help. Will you do a Zoom podcast with Michael and me early this week? Your leadership is needed. My leadership is needed. I won't be a part of the silence. I love you and your beautiful family, man, more than you will ever know. And so that's why we're here today, right?
Yep.
This has been crazy is the only way It's probably the only word I can use to describe it right now, in more ways than one. So, I mean, Mike, I mean, before we really dive into questions and really pick Alex's mind on this, I mean, do you want to give some thoughts as to, you know, the impact it's had on you or perspectives?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It is something to be nervous about. It's tough for a lot of reasons, and like you said, you know, me and you both, we're white. We don't deal with the kind of you know, systemic injustice that we witness, and a lot of times it means that we don't have the platform or have the appropriate voice to lend. You know, it's like I could sit here and tell you all day what I think about what's going on, but is it really fair for me, you know, not facing those issues, to jump in and pretend like, you know, my voice should be louder than someone else's? I don't know. I'm definitely not someone of, this issue aside, I'm not someone that that easily sits back without injecting my opinion into something, whether it's a quarterback of the team that I like or whatever. Like, it's hard for me to not get my opinion out. But when it comes to something like this, it's I kind of just have to sit down and shut up and let the people that are hurting the most tell me what they need. You know, I am an ally. I do consider myself an ally, but it doesn't mean that I have the answers. And I'm not going to pretend that I do. I have my God-given brain that formulates opinions of what I see, but most importantly, I just, you know, I'm interested to hear what Alex has to say. I've reached out to friends that I've got. I've reached out to, you know, we've got business owners, business friends that are in Minneapolis, and I'm curious what they need. You know, so it's just it's crazy because it doesn't, I don't want to say it doesn't affect me. It clearly does, but I don't have that like first degree impact, but it still consumes me in a way that it's tough to know what to do. So I listen.
And I'll say, Mike, that's huge, man. I mean, I did a video blog last night, just kind of posted talking about that. And that's one of the things that I'm working on myself, which is just, number one, working on active listening, right? Because truth be told, guys, in the days to come, we have some really challenging days ahead of us that are going to be emotionally charged, that are going to be intense. And if you don't know how to actively listen, number one, right? Number two, be compassionate, have empathy for someone. May not agree with them, I may be sitting on another side, can't feel what you're saying. Can't be sympathetic, but I can have empathy and compassion simply because you're a human being. And if I actively listen, right, and then on top of that, learn how to have challenging conversations, even when I'm uncomfortable, that's when we really begin to have change move. And so we're going to just jump right in if you guys are okay with it. I mean, just boom, throw a bomb in here. So I'm super proud of you guys for, and I may get emotional, man. I may cry a little bit. So I apologize if I do. So, because, you know, some of the things not right, but it is what it is, right? It's not right, but it's life, and it's kind of how it is. And so a lot of the reasons these situations still exist, right? Just being honest with you guys on this call today is because white America has kept their mouth closed about it, right? And so here's the challenge. Here's the deal. Because when I'm not affected by it, if I don't say anything, right, then it just kind of gets swept under the rug, right? Because this, truth be told, guys, what's happening, I mean, I tell my wife this now, and I tell my friends this, I can only imagine what the 80s were like for African-American people, where there were no cell. Listen, guys, truth be told, the only reason we're having these kind of conversations now, we're seeing all of this, is because we got technology. Technology is capturing all this stuff on film, whereas in the past, had this stuff not been on film, it's the police word against some of these African-American people, and it's a case that's swept on the rug, done deal. Boom, see you later. I was just looking at social media the other day in Cleveland. Guys, I don't know if you saw this. In Cleveland, this is crazy. These guys served 45 years. They just let them out, I think 2 weeks ago. 45 years for a crime they did not do. 3 black men, right? And they got a lawsuit against them. But guys, These guys went in prison at 20. Black men in the 70s, no video cameras to say, no, I didn't do this. These guys claimed to their innocence the entire time, but that wasn't there. So now what we're seeing is only a result of this right here, and people being able to have social media and show it. And so now, and it's sad that I have to have proof that I did not do that, right? It's not like, you know, if you don't have proof, guys, it's going to be a problem. And so I said all that to say, I'm super proud of you guys for being where you are and having a voice, because truth be told, and most people, a lot of people may get mad at me for saying this, but this is just honesty. The most powerful voice in America is the white male. No doubt about it. The rules and the laws were written by the white male. If you go back to the Constitution, which in my opinion, we need to revisit, because we are in different times, technology upgrades, computers upgrade, surgical equipment upgrades, but we're still living by a document that was written by white men who had slaves, and there's no mention of women, gays, or minorities anywhere in there, right? And so truth be told, if all of us right now were writing even laws for the country, every one of us on this call, Mike, you, Colin, myself, we would keep our families in mind as we're writing this. We're like, ooh, yeah, but if a Willis ever gets arrested, they get a pass. If this goes on, this happens. And so there's a natural tendency to do things for you. And so truth be told, underlying all of this is a system. And we can say whatever we want. We can try to change behavior. We can try to change people. But when there's a system underlying it that is just built not for everyone, it's going to be a challenge. And until white men speak out about it, right, it is going to be a challenge, truth be told.
Can I tell you that for me personally, I think in the past when I really look over my life, well, one, I actually think I'm finally growing into a voice. I don't think early on is I didn't consider myself a voice, for the community, a voice, I really didn't put a label on myself, as being a voice until other people started saying, dude, you're a voice for the small business community. You're a voice for Gainesville. And that started happening. And so I'm trying to step more into that and realize that, okay, this is not only something that I have a gift of doing, but that's a responsibility. And when I think of, my nerves, when it comes to stuff like this, and like I said in my email to you, one, I think it's definitely, I know you're big on psychology, personality traits and that kind of thing. We know that there are people who avoid confrontation. I would say I'm in that category. I would avoid it like crazy. And then when I was saying the stuff in terms of offending something, dude, I'll tell you right now that sometimes I in the past, I'd be nervous about calling a person Black versus African-American. I'm just being real, right. You know? And I'm am I gonna upset somebody by calling them Black instead of African-American? You know what I mean? And so those kind of things, I think, at least for me, kind of get at me on the inside. And it's just okay, well, maybe it's just best if I just keep my mouth shut and stay out of the way. And what I'm realizing is that's not right either.
Right. And that's the challenge. That is very challenging, guys. And I'm with you guys on that. I think the biggest point is understanding somebody's heart. Right. And I think that's where active listening comes into play. That's where emotional intelligence comes into play. That's when even in that situation you just mentioned, African-American versus Black, if the person was offended by it, right? Just to say, and you say, hey, oh, I'm so sorry. Hey, by no means did I mean to offend you. I just don't know. Help me understand this. I don't know, and I apologize, right? And so if we're more willing to take that approach, right, I think we can make it. Let me give you guys a real story here. So I'm not going to say names, but I went into one of probably our major donors for UF. Right, older gentleman, really old, probably really old, really old, right? And when we went in, this gentleman has given tons of money, huge football fan, just great guy, giving money in the community and the black community, just everywhere, giving tons of cash given, right? And when we went in, we were in with the president of the company, the owner, as well as the dean of college, UF, because we were talking about money and things that we could do and how we could raise money and do that. And so this person, finding out that I was a Gator, man, oh man, he was excited. Man, I saw you play. It was awesome to see you play. And just, we went down that path there. And in the conversation, he said, when I was in college, the N's played over at that university. And he like dropped the N-word, right, in the middle of the meeting. And everyone else cringed, right? They're like the dean, the president of the company, everybody's like, oh my God, how's Alex going to handle this, right? And I'm like, guys, what do you mean? I didn't say, I kept going with the conversation because here's the deal. That gentleman did not say that to offend me, right? I mean, some people, because of the time period that they grew up in, what they experienced, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but had this gentleman just been calling me this out of my name repeatedly, that's a different story versus me actively listening, saying, listen, no, this gentleman meant no ill will by saying that at this point in time. And so a lot of times we have to put our big boy pants on and understand where people are and then still understand the heart of people, right? And understand that. So in that situation, I was able to understand his heart. And to this day, man, that gentleman was really good friends, right? Really good friends. And that hasn't come up again, him saying that, but understanding that it's challenging, but sometimes you have to have tough skin and then look deeper than the behavior on the outside and look deeper and say, where's the person's heart? Where are their intentions? What's kind of going on here with that?
Yeah. So I hear that. And my immediate thought is, I mean, I my own voice would say, oh, that's cool that you reacted that way, that it didn't bother you. You had a very good understanding of that person and what he meant and everything. But I also know that not everybody's like that, going to react that way. And right before we pressed record, you talked about being tokenized, and I kind of want to just go ahead and bring it up in that scenario because
let's bring it up.
What I know happens sometimes is it's, oh, well, I've got this black friend, so it means that I can say what, I don't want to say what I want, but you know what I mean? It's just, it gets paraded out there like that, like, oh, no, I'm not racist because I have a black friend. And,
right.
And opposite that, it's because one black person says this, it's, as if everybody, he's speaking for everybody.
Right.
And that's also not the case. And so what I know we're not trying to do is tokenize you, but you are one voice on this podcast that we don't have to offer. So I just kind of wanted to highlight that and let you speak to that. And like I said, for me, having that conversation that you're talking about with that donor, I'd be like, yeah, it's cool that you were like that because, he didn't mean it in an offensive way and you picked up on that. So
right.
What's the deal? But
Well, Mike, you're right, man. And so I have to admit that, right? I have to admit that my situation is different than a lot of black kids who grew up the way that I grew up, right? Which challenges me because at one point in my life, and so since we're just being transparent on this, on the show here, dude, growing up in the hood, dude, when you make it out of the hood, I mean, literally, man, my house, dude, was one house down from the dope man, right? So I mean, literally, my house is here, my mom and dad's house. Neighbors here, right there, that's the big dope man. I mean, they're in and out, gunshots, all that stuff there, dude. So, you make it out of that kind of stuff there, dude. Truth be told, you like, I ain't going back. Why would I go back there, right? And which is another challenge that we have as far as successful African Americans going back to help, right? Not a lot go back because, like, dude, I lived a rough childhood. I know what that's like. I made it out, right? I'm upper middle class or upper class, and I'm like, good, right? And so my mom really showed me a lesson, guys, which was as I get older now, I'm like, man, this is crazy. So my mom and dad did really well professionally. My mom ended up in her career being president of the community college, right? So she was running the joint, but she still stayed in that same house. Right. And I'm like, why the hell are we staying in the same area, the same house, man? What's up? Right. And but my mom realized that it was a bigger message of her sending what it looks like to be a professional African American who can be civil, who can work, who can be successful, who can go from a secretary to president, from no degree to doctoral degree. And kids need to see that. They need to see that. They need to see that they can do it. They need to see what looks like them. They need me to be here to reach out in the neighborhood when they need food or when they need something for me to be able to do that. And so that has really, been in the last several years kind of my focus, right? Saying, listen, that's why I moved to Chicago, to say, how do we get more inner city kids into the trades, right? Which is a tough area right there in itself because the trades are primarily white, right? When you talk about, construction, and that's an environment that isn't so welcoming to emotional intelligence, to ideas, to making people feel inclusive. And so that definitely is another challenge there. But me seeing my privilege, Mike, has challenged me in a way that sometimes I feel bad about it, right? Similar to you guys. So here's the challenge. The reason a lot of white people feel difficult is because for me to have empathy or compassion for somebody else, I have to realize, one, on a subconscious level, I am privileged in some way, shape, or form, which is tough for me to say, listen, wait, because of my skin, because of the parents I was born to, because of a lot of things that I had no control over, I'm privileged, right? I tell people that all the time. I could have been born to parents on crack. I wasn't. I didn't have a choice in that though, right? So the fact that I had good parents, a mom and a dad in the hood, is a privilege that I had nothing to do, that reared me the way I am, but I can't take blame or I can't take credit for that, right? And so therefore, it's difficult sometimes when you have to make those statements of having that privilege and someone else not having that privilege, right? And so that's why sometimes I shy away from it. Now I'm trying to say, you know what, dude, yep, you were privileged and you are, but at the same time, you can still go back and help and have a voice for those who may not be as privileged as you are. Does that make sense, Mike? Tough for me.
Yeah, no, I mean, it does. Yeah, it does. It makes a lot of sense. It's just, it's just, like I said, it's one of those, it's just, I shut up and listen. It's interesting because there's just so many voices. There's you, and you're the only one that has your story. And there's people, that obviously have had a much tougher go of it. People that have had a tougher go of it. People that didn't even have as tough of a go as you might have had. And they all have different voices, and not one of them is, more or less important. And I think that that's important to note, important to highlight is it's still, one person's perspective, but it's also every voice has a seat at the table.
Right. Well, can I challenge you a little bit on that, Mike?
Yeah, please.
So I think every voice has a seat at the table. Sometimes, right? So, and this is just me being 100, guys. Y'all wanted the real Alex. I'm giving you the real Alex right now, right?
All I want, man.
So, when you talk about the disparity in America and the challenges in America, right? Even for Alex. So here's one thing that, underlying Black people think about, right? In order for you to hit major levels of success in business, right? As a Black male, you need a white male to co-sign on you somewhere in your life to get to that next level. It ain't right. But to say you can do it by yourself, most times, guys, it's tough. It's challenging to do it by yourself. I tell a lot of people, we've hit crazy numbers in business, but you better believe I have a lot of white influential men in my life who have co-signed on Alex. Guys, I walk around the construction convention like I own the joint. Why? Not because, my personality was so great in the beginning. No, it was because of who co-signed on me, saying, no, hey, that's my guy. This guy right here, hey, he's with me. He's my guy. I'm bringing on to the table. Y'all want to listen to this guy. And all of a sudden, because that guy co-signed on Alex, now all of a sudden everybody in white America accepts Alex, right? And it's like, oh, bring him in. But had I just been an average guy off the street, right, without that kind of connection, I wouldn't have the voice that I have in construction that I have now. Just being totally transparent with you guys. And that's why I was saying a lot of times the great voice or the strong voice in America is the white male. And if you get a white male behind your story, or to say, hey, no, guys, listen, nope, this is wrong. This is wrong. We got to do this. We're going this route here. You got to do that. It ain't right. it's not the way it should be, but it's the society that we live in. And therefore, that's why I'm saying, even in I just went back to school, guys, recently for certification in diversity and inclusion, right? To get better at that, see how do you do that on a global scale. And, we talk about that as global best practices. The problem with diversity and inclusion is you're leaving the most powerful person in the room out, the white male. You got a bunch of people who care about the cause, and that's cool, right? You got a bunch of people who want to rally, and that's cool. But the people who can get done ain't in the room most of the time, and ain't having those calls because you don't invite them in, right? So truth be told, a lot of times the white male is excluded out of diversity conversations. One, because they feel uncomfortable. Two, because people are like, oh, why should we bring them in? No, you need allies. You need allies. You need friends. You need sponsors. You need champions who have a voice, who are connected to this person, to that person, to this person, if you're going to get this ball rolling forward, right? So you can understand that when you look at what some of the greats did, Dr. King and a lot of people do, they did not do it with an all-black movement. No, it was because white America strongly backed them, right? And who they were. Hell, our president, 44? It wasn't black people that got him in office. Just being honest with you. Why? Because he had a strong white following that supported him and believed in his message, right? And as a result of that, that pushed in. And so therefore, even when we talk about issues like this, guys, please understand that this Floyd issue, if only black people were talking about it,
right?
Let's be honest. Let's go back to Ahmaud, the Ahmaud issue, guys. That issue, because I don't watch the news that much, and I'm not a TV guy or really a whole bunch on social, just kind of scrolling, checking out. When I saw that, I thought that had happened like last week, right? Not realizing like that was like months ago,
right?
And it wasn't until, truth be told, a lot of white America got behind it and saw that and like, wait a minute, what happened? Let me see this video, and then start pushing it, that it got world-renowned recognition now. And so therefore, you have to understand the voice that you have, and maybe it's not up front, Mike and Colin, right? Because it's like, hey, I don't feel, I don't feel the pain to go through it, but hey, I can be a champion for the cause and say, hey, listen, no, guys, this is wrong. Hey, listen, let me talk to a couple people. Let me see how I can help their story get pushed forward, because this is wrong in what's being done right here.
Right. No, like, I think some of it comes with experience, right? Like, I mean, the more I do it, the more I'm going to be, and the more I educate myself on it, yep, the more comfortable I'm going to be speaking on it. Right. So there's definitely this level of like, I just haven't put myself out there. But I'm willing, and I'm like super excited that I'm seeing the same thing you're seeing, is that like, yeah, there's like, hey, white America, if that's what you're calling it, is like stepping up. Right. Mm-hmm. And, like, dude, I was raised to treat everybody the same way that I would treat, it's just frustrating that we would, treat anybody differently because of the color of their skin. And that's like the hardest thing for me. And I don't know, man, just,
but Colin,
it's just frustrating that it's taken this long, and that it's taken this event to get to the point where we're at today. And I don't know. It's just.
But Colin, that's where that's the challenge of the media. That's the challenge of America. Because truth be told, we all do it. We all judge people by the color of their skin and different things of that nature. There, just being honest with you guys. Listen, I'm a black male. If I see someone tatted out all the way head to toe, right? Maybe gold teeth in, right? Saggy baggy pants, I'm looking twice. I'm not like cool, calm, and collective. Like, okay, right? So if that person's walking the street and on the other side of the street there's a white male in a suit, right? And me being a black male, you know what I'm saying? I'm like this right here myself, and that's not right to this guy. I don't even know this guy. This guy in the suit may be the killer who's trying to kill me here. But because of my stereotypes and because of my bias, I'm automatically pointing this guy out because of how the media has painted this image. Say, look, anybody that looks like that dude, that's a threat. And that's the problem. See, I was talking to a good buddy of mine today, Newell, this morning, and we started talking about like just how the media has just done a work on painting the black image. So you got to understand that a lot of the threat that society feels the impact of when it comes to the black male is because of how the media demonizes the black male, right? And so you look at a lot of the stories on TV, dude, they ain't positive when it comes to the black men now. I mean, it's bang, bang, shoot them up, kill, this kind of stuff here. And just if we just do basic math, guys, I mean, on a per capita basis, white people do more crime than black people across the country. It's just more people. I mean, dude, we're 13% of America. 13% of America. So just from a crime standpoint, you cannot do more crime when the other population is 76% or better. But when you say what's glorified and what's highlighted on television, it's in those areas. And this is the kind of stuff that we tend to do, because if you look at who controls the media, who controls a lot of our systems, it is older white men who make those calls. So therefore, when you talk about that kind of stuff and we talk about what that looks like, guys, it's very challenging. And as a result of that, we can see how this is planned out, even just with the coronavirus right now. Guys, people are scared of the coronavirus. Why? Because of the media, because of how the media has played it, what they've done, how they really just, they make you, it's crazy. You think about the same thing they've done that way for years with the black male, and all of a sudden, you see all these calls and things like, the videos of people just making threats. Just you see it, like, hey, I'm gonna call and tell them a black male, is trying to attack me. And for some reason, people think that's the magic button that'll get cops to come, because it will, because of the image that we painted of black men.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
So my question is, how deeply rooted is this? Because I, as an American that went through a public school system here, I know what we learned. I know, the American Civil War, the battles of slavery and stuff like that. But I also know that this isn't an American problem. Even the protests with George Floyd have spread to other countries. I think about, as you're talking about how the media portrays the black male, I'm sitting here thinking about how we portray Jesus Christ. We often think about him. If I say Jesus Christ, we think about this white male with flowing hair and a clean kept beard. Well, I'm here to tell you he wasn't from Anglo background. You know what I mean?
Right.
But we portray him in the likeness that white people want him to look like a white guy, right? So how far rooted is this systemic racism? Because obviously it's like, and I know that's the $1 billion question, but like, you to me, it's like you can't start solving that problem until you know how widespread it is. It's not just a localized thing here in America.
Oh, I'm totally with you on that. I mean, you can, truth be told, Mike, man, it is challenging being of color in the world. Just being totally transparent with you. In the world, when you travel, it is a challenge. It's a challenge, and it goes way back. I mean, so we're talking about centuries of challenges with this problem, right? And so it is not an overnight Band-Aid fix, truth be told, right? You are talking about years and years of suppression, years and years of mistreatment, all right? Even within the own African-American race, right? I mean, you look back, dude, listen. My wife and I talk about this quite often. As a black person, you prefer to be light, fair-skinned versus dark-skinned. Why? Because you got preferential treatment just being fair-skinned, right? This goes back to working in the house versus working in the field, right? You were lighter and fair, you worked in the field, right? Dark worked you worked in the house. Dark worked in the field. And even to this day, dude, I remember in middle school, elementary school, dude, you being a dark chocolate African-American guy or girl, dude, you're getting roasted. Jokes and people picking on you because of the darkness of your skin. And so it just goes back to what you're talking about, that systemic problem going farther and farther back of wanting to be liked, right? Not being comfortable in my dark skin, but this subconscious of something that lighter is better, right? And truth be told, we're all people, man, and it's not lighter's better, you know, but that's how our world has dictated that this message over hundreds of thousands of years, man. Thousands of years worth of it.
But within the black community, you also hear things like, you know, oh, this guy isn't black enough. And it's just stuff that I've heard, you know?
Yeah. Which is tough, Mike. And so my wife and I were talking, and it just kind of brings me to tears, Mike, because and since we're being honest on this show, right? I think the two most challenging places people in the world, truth be told, is and both are two ends of the spectrum. Number one is a upper middle class black guy who's successful, right? Because here's the deal: I live out here in Naperville, Illinois, guys. This is white as white can get. I'm gonna be honest with you. Top 5 school district in the country is white, baby. You know what I'm saying? And so, in certain neighborhoods, guys, I pull up in a certain car. People are looking at me like, "Who is that guy to drive that car?" Or pulling me over because I'm in this neighborhood driving this car, right? And so I've got out of area, worked my ass off, right? And now getting pulled over in my neighborhood because they're like, "Dude, what you doing? What you doing here?" Right? And I can tell a real life situation of this that happened, and I'll share that story a little later if we get a chance to. But so that's one side of it, right, Mike? On the flip side, if I go back and say, "Man, you know what, guys, in these white neighborhoods, they're not treating me right. I'm just not feeling comfortable. They talking bad to my kids. They just treat us wrong. I'm going back to the inner city of the hood." Guys, when I go there, they rob me, right? Because of what I have, they're like, "Oh, dude, robbing. Like he has the latest, greatest car. He has this in his house. Let's rob him." So, dude, you're in a catch-22. Like, where the hell do I go? Right? What do I do? How do I do this? Even in meetings, I mean, things that mid-level to upper middle level class black guys have to think about. Guys, I have to think about, what car am I going to drive to this meeting? Do I drive my nice car? Because what will the CEO say? How does black guy driving this car? Who is he? All right? Or do I drive my piece of shit? And then the guy's like, "Dude, this guy driving a piece of shit. We're not doing business with him. He driving his." So it's a catch-22 of how do you do that? So that's a challenge being that area, Mike, because that is saying, okay, dude, listen, I'm not black enough, right? In certain areas, white America not accepting me because I'm too black. So it's like, dude, what the hell do I do, right? So that's the challenge. That's that one end. The other end, guys, and truth be told, this is probably more challenging, is to be a 6'2" chocolate black dude in America. Bro, that is a threat to everybody walking down the street. You may be a teddy bear, nice guy, but because you are 6'2", big African-American male, all of a sudden people are afraid of you. Don't know you from date, don't know you from anybody, but because of your size and your skin color, they're afraid of you. And that's not right, Mike, but that's the challenge, right, that we face. And that's some of the stuff that, you know, doesn't go away overnight, that is taught, you know, and here's how we know it's taught. Right now, guys, some of my daughter's best friends are white. Dude, these little kids see each other, they hug each other, they kiss. "Oh, where can I hang out with them? I want to just go see them," right? And at some point in time, guys, where does this tilt? Something's taught at some point in time. You can put kids in a room together, and guys, they playing. Black, white, Asian, Chinese, they don't care. They like, "Man, where's my buddy at? I want to see him." But at some point in time, the systems that we live in and where we are and how we're taught changes things.
Right. But will that ever change? Because, like, you think about it from a parenting standpoint, you know, like, there's probably some African-American parents out there that are telling their children that the police are the enemy, right? Like, those conversations are probably happening. And if they are, then like, does that change? Like, how do we create that change, Alex? Like, how do we create that's
it's tough.
Because I know you're exactly right. Like, I know that it's taught. So, like, we can't prevent it from being taught.
Right. Well, Colin, here's the challenge. For 3 years, I did youth ministry in the inner city. So for 3 years of my life, I gave my life to the inner city. And this was like some of the toughest places I've ever been in, man. I mean, I will come in where kids have no groceries, dude. I've never seen anything like it, you know. So we're buying groceries for kids, that kind of stuff there. But Colin and Mike, when you have and I get it, but when you have police officers who have certain beats, right? And when you have police officers who are known in those beats, like, hey man, don't mess with Officer Bill, dude. He'll kick the shit out of you. He'll beat your ass, dude. Right? That kind of stuff is like, how do you fend your kids against that kind of stuff, Colin? Right? So it's like, that's the challenge that some of these people who feel voiceless have. It's like, dude, we know this person is treating us wrong, and nobody's doing anything about it because this is the law. So what do? We talk about it. We try to protest it. We try to do something, and this person comes back even angrier and really opens up a can because they have the badge. And so that's the very, very challenge. So I think number one, in my opinion, we have to hold people, and this is all leaders. So don't get me wrong. I'm not just talking cops. Right. Anybody holding a leadership position is held to a higher standard than everybody else, simply because of the position I hold, which means under all circumstances, I have to hold my composure. Guys, listen, my employees in leadership surge, they can act a fool in different places and curse me out and just go ape. But as the leader and the CEO of the company, I have to eat that.
Right.
And say, you know what? I want to respond right now. Ooh, I'm emotional. I should respond right now. But you know what? That's not the leadership thing to do right here. And right now, I have to hold myself to a higher standard. So I think those at the top, we do have to hold them to a higher standard. And there has to be a standard that they're holding themselves to, as well as a brother and sisterhood that's holding them to that standard, making sure they say, listen, as a police officer, as a leader, as a government official, when you give me power, I'm exchanging my rights to respond certain ways. For the power that you gave me, I'm giving up my rights. I cannot act like a regular citizen because of the power that I have. And when we begin to see that and not lord over power, because a lot of people in those positions, they look as though the people serve me versus my job is to serve the people. Right? And that's a different mindset of lead. That's flipping the paradigm from a leadership standpoint. It has to start at the top, Colin. If it doesn't start at the top, nothing else happens. And it's just like leadership in an organization. We can train the bottom frontline level employees to be great leaders. But if we don't train their managers how to do that, and if we're not talking to the board and executives and the CEOs saying, hey, what's the policies, what's the procedures, what's the laws within your company that you're doing, these people at some point in time are going to get frustrated with the techniques that we're teaching them because nothing else above them works. And they're saying, yeah, Alex, Colin, Mike, I'm doing what you're telling me to do, but dude, this does not work. I'm bumping my head every single time because my manager's saying no and his manager's saying no and the policies within the company say different. Unless we really begin to handle this thing, as Mike said, looking deeper, right? This is deeper than just behavior. God, you got to start looking at policies and laws and how things are in place. Colin and Mike, simply, dude, you can have two people do the exact same crime. Guys, if one black and one white, those sentences will be different.
I know, dude, which is crazy.
Understand that? I mean, how can one system, we both do the exact same crime. We did the exact same thing. Your sentences, guys, will be different than mine. That's a problem. That's a problem. Until you fix that kind of stuff, I mean, think about this, guys. And this is really eye-opening to me. I was last night strolling through, I follow Young Jeezy. So I was strolling through Young Jeezy's Instagram last night. He posted probably 40 pictures of African-American people who have been killed by the police in the last 4 years. Gunned down. Some police convicted, some police, nothing. Like, not held to the standard, right? And so that right there is challenging, and that right there is very frustrating when you see that kind of accountability not being put in place. And that's where it has to start, because if it doesn't start there, nothing else will work. We can try to change behavior all we want, but unless laws and those kinds of things are changed, and policies, guys, it's going to be challenging.
Yeah. I want to change directions a little bit.
Yep.
I really want to get your thoughts on how it's been handled, like the reactions, the, you know, what the communities, the you know, the protests, the, you know, how everybody's really kind of being coming together for this cause, and, you know, what's going through your mind as you're watching it unfold. I can tell you a little bit, like, from my mind, I'm like, I come in with a lot of confusion. I come in with, like, I understand the hurt. Like, I want justice, but then I'm confused by people burning down their communities. And, you know, so I'm just really interested in, you know, in your perspective.
So it's tough, guys. It's very tough. I mean, I don't agree with a lot of the things that are going on and how it's being done. Just truth be told with you guys. But I understand. I'll share why I understand. I love seeing the fact that we do have a united front with different colors and races coming together, right? But like I said, some of the tactics and techniques I don't agree with. So here's the deal. You know, if you have children, you understand this, that when children don't use their words, they react, they act out. So you may have a kid who's hitting, and you're like, no, don't hit. Use your words, right? And if you haven't given your child a platform to use their words, they will continue hitting until you teach them how to use their words and you're paying attention to their words. So a lot of the people in our communities, our deprived communities that are challenged, have not had the education to be developed to be able to use their words, one, or their words have not been heard. When I just told you guys 40 cases in the last 4 years of people gunned down by the police and people saying something, your words aren't heard, you're like, dude, my words are not being heard. So the only thing I can do is act out. And therefore you get frustrated, you get pissed off. And so therefore you are not acting in a way where you're thinking, you're acting out. And so therefore I don't agree with it, but I understand it. And my job, as I said earlier, is to actively listen, to look deeper, to have compassion for those people, understanding that, trying my best to stop that, because that also opens up for other groups who have alternative motives, right? So I don't know if you guys saw this, but there was a gentleman in Utah. There's a video, just sickening video to see how people are using some of this to really push their agendas, right? So older white gentleman in Utah, you can look it up, just put Utah crossbow. But basically the guy, you know, was in the hospital and they had him on the news and he was saying, I got beat up. They pulled me out of my car. 2 black males just beat me up, right? Well, somebody, thankfully for technology, right, was shooting video of the protest. This guy's out with his crossbow shooting arrows at people, guys.
Yeah, I saw it. Crazy.
The mob, it wasn't black guys, but a bunch of skaters and everybody else beat the crap out of the dude, right, to stop him from shooting arrows at people. But he could go on the television and say that kind of stuff. Then all of a sudden now we've given the platform to open up that. So those kind of riots open up the platform for other people to kind of do divisive things, and it dilutes your message. This goes back, guys, to which is interesting, because we didn't like it when he did it. This is why Colin Kaepernick was not standing up. And everybody in America, I get frustrated by that, guys, because everybody bashed this man. They tore him up. The guy was protesting peacefully for this kind of stuff, because the guy said, listen, man, there's things out there that are happening in my community that I disagree with. And so therefore, I'm not going to fight you. I'm not going to shoot. I'm not going to loot. But what I am going to do is understand this is not one nation for all. So I'm going to sit down. I'm going to kneel. And what happened? Mostly older white men took it a whole different route. He don't like the military. He doesn't like our country. No, he wasn't saying this. He was saying that, guys, that our country is not for all, and we have to do some things to the injustices that are happening. And he did it peacefully. So had we embraced his message and not demonized him, understand that, God, this guy was on to something, and the guy was doing something in a peaceful way highlighting what we're seeing right now. And so now when you have those kind of methods that are not working, when you have those kind of methods that go on and on forever, you get tired, Colin, right? And that's the difference, just being honest with you guys, between a Martin and a Malcolm, right? Martin was, hey, peace. Malcolm was like, hey, dude, we done waited too long. By whatever means necessary, we go at it, right? And so there is, when your voice isn't being heard, you do get fed up. You do get tired. You do get frustrated. You don't know what to do with yourself, right? And so therefore you do what you're seeing, which is not right.
Yeah. I think that's like what's like, I again, the only thing I can do is I try to put myself in the shoes of others, right? That's the only thing that's been able to give me some perspective and try to understand conversations like this one, you know. But like, I'm not gonna lie to you, man. Like, I'm straight up thinking, I'm like sitting here wondering, what would I do if my community burned down my business? Like, yep. you ain't pulling me together. Right? That's not sending me as a business owner of, hey, like, we really appreciate everything you've done, Colin. Like, we really appreciate the 16 years of dedication and hard work that the heart and soul you poured into this community, you know. And I'm just being real with you. Like,
I think you're spot on, Colin. And I think this, but it goes back to that one saying that, you know, my mentor often says to me, hurt people hurt people.
Right.
No, you understand, hurt people, right? And so I'm not saying it's right, dude. I know for me, I'll be, you know, like, what the heck, dude? You burn down my business, come to what's going on here, right? And so it's challenging, dude, to see some of the frustration and pain that some of these people have experienced for years, right? And it's how they're acting out now. And I think it's time for us to listen to them, try to hear, right? To show empathy and try our best to have those conversations and talk with them. But that's the challenge, man. I mean, we've allowed this problem to happen. I'm just being honest. It's almost like, dude, this thing is, like I said, this isn't just happening just now. It's at a point that it's erupted, right? It's the kid who's quiet all the time, and all of a sudden, boom, explode, right? I mean, you're looking at this stuff, like I said, in the last 4 years, at least 40 cases that we know of, that this happens with Black people, not no weapons, nothing on them, right? Not shooting at the cop, kill. And then here's the crazy part that we talk about a lot in the African American community, guys. Then you got people like mass killers who kill hundreds of people, and they get them out peacefully. I mean, unless the person kills themselves, most times, gentlemen, you can go back and look at all these cases. The guy who in South Carolina who killed the people in the church, dude, he in a vest, calm, they got him. We're like, dude, wait. You guys came into that situation knowing he's killing people, but he's white, and we get him down peacefully. But a gentleman at the corner store selling loose cigarettes, right? We put him down, or this other gentleman with a $20 check bounce, no gun in sight, no weapon, and we can't get them in peacefully. And so these are the frustrations, Colin, and this is why that stuff goes on, because when that stuff builds up over time, dude, you don't know what to do, man. And so I'm not saying it's right? And I don't have the answer there with it. And it is frustrating. And it is almost like, hey, I'm feeling this pain. They want others to feel that pain. That's not the answer. But that is kind of to the point of where they boiled. And that's kind of what's going on there.
Yeah. No, do you think a lot of it is simply reactionary? And like, where I'm going with this is like, yeah, like, I understand it's the frustration. It's like, okay, I'm not being heard. We're not being heard. And then it causes the writing and this kind of stuff to happen. And then I'm like putting myself into my own leadership vulnerabilities. And like one of the things I've talked about multiple times is that I've like, there's a lot of emotion right now, right? And like a lot of it, the best way I've been able to like relate to the riots has been like from a reactionary emotional standpoint. It's like there's so many times in business where something has happened over the last 16 years and I would just blow up. Like I would just blow up. I would like, I'm throwing batteries across the service department. Like, and I'm not proud of it by any means. Like that's the thing that I've worked on the most as a leader. And now I've reached a stage where I'm not a hothead. I'm very cool, calm, and collective. I'm going to get the information very much like how I've done with a lot of this is like, I'm going to soak in as much information as I can. And then I'm going to respond to whatever that situation is, and how, like, I guess it's a little bit of both. Like I'm just thinking about like a lot of these riots. It seems like a lot of them did start off peacefully, right? It was like a lot of peaceful protests, and at least from my observation. Mike and Alex, you can tell me what you saw, but start off peacefully. And then there was something that sparked an emotional, reaction that led to something being shot, something being thrown, something happening that just then, the match was started and the fire broke out,
Well, that's the challenge. That's what I was, kind of alluding to earlier. That's the challenge of doing that kind of stuff. You open up to other people who have other motives. Colin, there's been several identified people that have been out in these riots to start that kind of stuff. Yeah, maybe it starts peacefully, but it's somebody who's not even a part of this whole movement of coming together, peace, keeping us together. This is a person who's divisive, who wants to divide. And so therefore, to divide, I'm going to throw a glass bottle with fire and blow up something to get things going crazy, right? And that's the challenge that we have of trying to do this kind of stuff when you go have mass groups of people like that, right? And not knowing if everybody's supporting the cause and kind of what's going on there. That's the problem, man. And so, it is very, very challenging. I think a lot of it is emotional driven, right? But it goes back to, and this is where compassion and empathy comes into play. Dude, it goes back to looking at our education system. Let's just take it back. Dude, listen, if you look at inner city schools, Title I schools, dude, man, I look at our books, dude. When I went to school, we didn't have books, really. I mean, you look at the stuff that we had. So when you talk about educating me to be able to control my emotions and having a good education system to be able to train me up in a way that I can be able to do that, I don't have it. I've never received that. And so if I've never received that, right, I don't know how to govern myself and I don't know how to manage my emotions, then of course, any situation that comes up, I'm going to be emotionally charged and I don't know how to deal with it. Because no one's ever taught me how to do that. I've never had to do that. And all I know how to do is act out. And I know that when I act out, something happens as a result of that. So I'm going to go to my go-to of what I do.
It almost sounds like a case of like a lot of false perceptions in a lot of ways from the standpoint of like, and we do this with a lot, like you hear the words, a few bad seeds. You hear that all the time, right? Like, is this a case in the protests are like, really, we have people who like, we're all out there, we're all fighting for change. We really want to see racism end. We really want, we need the systematic things to change. Like, well, that's what we really want. But then there's these few bad seeds out there that are throwing that bottle, right? And that's the case with police? Like, I genuinely believe that all police officers are not bad people.
I agree.
Right?
I agree
like
100%.
There's a group that, like this group, that are terrible and out. Like, I don't even get me started. But there are a few bad seeds, right? And I don't know. So that creates these false perceptions. But it feels like to me that it just like, I don't know. Like, I just feel like it creates the divide, right? Because
big time.
Those few that throw that bottle and then start the looting and the rioting and then burn down businesses, that makes everybody else look bad. Just like the handful of bad police officers that make the entire force look bad. And I
totally agree.
It's so tough, man, because you're right. Like, you talk about social media. I'm like, is social media, like, the fact that I look at it as the fact that these videos, that these things happen, are good, right? Like, we're seeing it, we're being exposed to it at the same time. But then I see like the divide and the fight and the arguments and the hate. through posts. So like
Mhm.
everybody's, you know, preaching their agenda and their thoughts, and nobody's really listening. Everybody's just talking. And it's just like, and that gets super frustrating. And so, and I see videos, you know, I'm like, all right, like a few bad seeds with the, like this police officer, and I see the murder of George Floyd. And then I see NYPD like bashing into barricades and hitting people. Like, dude, I'm like, I'm getting bombarded with so much that I'll be honest, dude, it's like genuinely hard to figure out like what is one, like, all right, what's legit here, like what's right, what's wrong. Like, I mean, I almost feel like people are defending rioting. Like, I feel like we're getting to debate like, oh, it's okay to create, it's okay to do crime. That's what we're saying.
Right.
Like, and like I've had those feelings, and then I hear this perspective, and I'm like, okay, no, this is a few bad seeds who are reacting to a situation. Something probably caused them to react that way. It like went too far, you know. And dude, I'm like, this is why. This is exactly why I've been an emotional mess over this
crazy.
Entire thing.
Mike, you were going to say something, man. I don't want to cut you off. You were going to say something before, man. What's up? Talk to me.
Yeah, there is so much going through my head right now, and I'll start off by saying, if I have to, that I don't condone the violence in any sort of way, but I do feel like I have a little bit of a differing opinion on the topic of how the riots have played out, and that's, you know, yeah, what we've seen, at least what I've seen, is there are some instigations, maybe with different agendas and stuff like that. I'm not speaking to that part of it, but for this movement leading to riot, leading to looting, destruction of property, first I'd say, and I'll get to the point eventually, but first I'd say I'm glad you brought up Colin Kaepernick, because that's something that actually makes me really angry. It made me angry during the middle of it. The hypocrisy of it. Usually, you know, you see a picture of Colin Kaepernick kneeling during a national anthem, and it's from a photographer that, oh, by the way, was kneeling during the national anthem to do his job to take that photo, right? So there's already this hypocrisy in the whole thing. But yes, he's using his platform as a silent, you know, protest. Not being disrespectful, not bashing the military. He's just using it. And what does he do? He gets lampooned by lots of people, lots of close friends of mine, you know, being an overpaid diva athlete that's misusing his platform and just needs to shut up, you know, and whatever. That's what he gets told, right? And it's not just him. There are people that followed his lead. They weren't black. Megan Rapinoe is one that comes to mind that did it on her platform.
Yep.
But what happened is they were eventually silenced. They lost their jobs. The league stepped in, or the ownership stepped in and silenced them. But we go through this now, and people say, oh, well, that's not the right way to handle things. Okay, well, when they were trying the right way to handle things, they were getting made fun of or you know, character assassinated on social media. So you don't get to have it both ways. What did they do? You know, when Nike supported Colin Kaepernick, people started burning their Nikes.
Burning Nikes.
So their response was destruction of property and fire, right? It's the writing is on the wall, and like you said with Malcolm, is eventually you get to a point where you've got to act. And I'll just go ahead and throw it out there. And I have said this on a couple little spats I've gotten into, but this country was founded on the same thing. The rhetoric when the country, you know, demanded their independence from England was no taxation without representation. That was based on the fact that the king was trying to tell them, King George III, trying to tell American colonists how to act. What did they do? They destroyed property. They threw the tea into the harbor. They said, no more. You're not going to listen to us. We've asked. We've done this nicely. But what are we going to do? No, we're going to riot in the streets, and we're going to cause a scene, because that's the only way to grab your attention to get this conversation talked about. And so riots are one of the age-old tactics in civilization to get your voice heard. So am I surprised that that's what's happening? No, not at all. It's reached that saturation point that people are demanding change, and everything that we've done up until this point, or haven't done up until this point, has not moved the ball. And so that's why it's happening.
Well, and Mike, you're spot on. And so, Mike, and here's the crazy part about that. just backing you up 100%. What we all know, and this is just being honest, what the majority who run our country, right? Older white male, what matters to them more than anything is what, gentlemen? Money. So you want their attention, burn shit down. You want their attention, cause a uproar, and if it affects money in a system, it gets attention. It gets attention like none other. It gets way more attention than me saying, listen, hey, cops have been beating us up for 30 years. Cops have been doing this, guys. Hey, Mr. Politician, please help us out. Mr. Politician, we're going to keep writing letters. We're going to keep writing letters. That doesn't get as much attention as if I affect your money stream, right? When I affect your money, it's the lights out. No, even with Colin, no one said anything until it started affecting the NFL's money. Understand that. Colin was doing this for a long time, guys. It wasn't until owners' pockets were being affected by viewership and ticket sales that people are saying, oh, these players doing that, I'm going to stop watching stuff. I'm going to stop doing this. And that's when white owners started stepping up, because now you're affecting my pocket, right? And so it's not right, Colin, but as Mike says, man, I mean, I understand that you're saying it's not right. But here's the challenge that a lot of these people are feeling this. They're saying, I wrote some notes down as Mike was talking. When you talk about white officers doing the same crime as somebody in civilization do, and they get off over and over and over and over and over again, consecutively, not right, right? Because the people making the rules of that allow them to do that, right? And so when you have that kind of stuff going on, it is frustrating. It does cause you to emotionally react. It does say, dude, we tried everything we can, man. We talked. We did this right here. You got people who are exhausted.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's like the word that's come up a couple times in the last couple days has been the word heavy. Everything has been really heavy. And I'm trying to make sense of it. I'm trying to make sense of, of a lot of that stuff that you guys just brought up, even with Colin Kaepernick, because I come from a military family that's like, man, you stand up and you salute that flag. What is this guy doing? I come from that perspective. And like right place, like, is that the right place for that, to do that? But I'm seeing what's happening now, and I'm seeing these riots, and it's disappointing. And then I see, at the same time, I see the way I think it should be done, right? Like, I see these police officers putting down their batons and joining these marches, with these parades, as I saw one police officer refer to it as, like, here, like, I want to parade with you guys. Like, we want the same change you want. And, and that, like that's the way I want it to be done. Like, and then maybe it's progress. Maybe it was this that got the attention. Maybe that never would have happened if it hadn't been for a riot. Right. I don't know. Like, I'm a mixed bag of emotions right now. I tell you that much.
You're right, man. I mean, I don't think a lot of times, like Mike said, that gets the attention. You can go all the way back to the beginning, dude, that gets attention, right? It's not right, but it does get attention. When you talk about revolution, revolts, just riots, it gets people's attention. But here's the challenge, and here's why this is so difficult. This is so difficult because, guys, for this to play out right, somebody has to give up rights and privileges to say, no, I don't want my privilege no more. No, don't give me special treatment no more. Let's all be fair and equal. Here you go, all my rights and all my privileges, with loans, with housing, with jobs, with neighborhoods, with school and education, with my kids, with your kids. I'm going to give all that in, guys, so that we can be fair and equal. Dude, that's tough. Because most people are not doing that.
Isn't that the irony of the situation, though? Like, if you're right. That, like, I was going to pose a question almost when we first started. Something came up, and it's like, can you have equality if there isn't somebody that's willing to take a step back and lose power? But at the very genesis of the point that somebody's not willing to lose power to make things equal, is it not because they realize that they don't want to be that person and that it is unequal?
100%, Mike. 100%. Yes. Yes, Mike, listen, and I'm not going to pose this question to you guys. But I posed this question to some of my friends. Would you trade places with a black man and be black in America? Would you openly say, you know what, hey, dude, I'll trade places, change my skin and make me black? Most of my white friends are like, right? And the simple fact that hesitation, Mike, says you understand that that's a problem. The fact that somebody having to say, ooh, that shows right there that's a problem. So I totally agree with you on that, Mike, 100%. And so, but here's the deal, and that's why it's so difficult and challenging because, you know, truth be told, we are all competitive in nature, and we're competitive people, and we don't like to give up the advantage. And that's all of us, right? That's me to say, oh, I want business to be equal and everybody to be fair, so I'm going to start giving up all this leadership business just so we can all be on an even playing field. The likelihood that I'm doing that, dude, not likely. Truth be told, right? And so when it comes to this racial inequality thing, you have to be willing to do that. And truth be told, they don't want that. You know, they don't want that. The people don't want that.
So I got a question, and I don't know, Colin, if we got to wrap it up soon, but I don't want this to trivialize anything. But if we could take a step back on a more macro approach, where are we at today? Is it you know, we talked about like this changes are so deeply rooted in all of civilization that they're not going to be solved overnight. Is where we're at today just a necessary step in a growth, you know, a growth chart? Is it fair to say, like, are we better today than we were 2,000 years ago? Do we still have 2,000 years to go, and this is just where we're at? Like, are we on track, or is there anything we can do to expedite it? Or what are your thoughts on that?
It's tough, man. Woo, Mike, you threw the whole kitchen sink at me with that one, dude. That's a tough question, man. I mean, it's hard to gauge because you're just so deep into it, right? There's just so much chaos going on to say, you know, to see the timeline, to say, is that possible? I don't know. I mean, I would say in some aspects we are better today than we were years ago, right? Simply because, I mean, heck, years ago, a white male would kill an African-American person, or a black person, and there was nothing done. Like, it's like, dude, cover up the body, let's go, keep going, right? Whereas now, you can still do that, but I mean, it's coming with some repercussions now, right? We're starting to talk about it. You have more people willing to say that's not right now. So I think the fact of that and the fact of people realizing the power of their voice, right? So I think, one, we are holding more people accountable because people are realizing the power of their voice. And so I think there's this whole there's several agendas kind of going on at the same time, and I think they're helping us get there, Mike, faster. One, this social media trend, right? This social trend where everybody lives out loud, right? Because of that has definitely helped us fast track that, right? So with us doing that, a lot of the places that we are right now is because of that in itself. And so I think that right there, us realizing that we are more alike than different, right? In a lot of aspects, in a lot of different ways, maybe treated differently, but there's a lot of similarities. And as we begin to sympathize with people, and when we see people rioting together or protesting together, it is us coming together for a common good, right, Mike? And so I think the more we begin to do that, I haven't seen people come together like that in years, to be honest with you, man. I mean, you're talking about people coming together to stand up for a cause, and not only one time, because in the past, because of the lack of social, you know, you may have had the Rodney King incident, right? And that was one incident that was publicized, but outside of that, there was far in between, you know, the next event that you would see people coming together. Because you have these incidents coming rapid fire, man. I mean, dude, 2 or 3 weeks ago, dude, we had like 5 incidents of like African-American people getting killed by police in crazy situations, like boom, 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 right? And now you have people uniting for longer periods of time talking about it for longer periods of time, which I think is going to help fast track us there, because it isn't right where we are. It doesn't feel good where we are. But the fact of it being so heavy, like Colin said, and it not just going away, what a lot of white America wants is for it to just go away so I can go back to my nice, happy, privileged life where I don't have to deal with this right here. Because I don't like these emotions. I don't like having to deal with this. I don't have to talk about this. But with this stuff happening every single week, over and over and over again, you cannot escape it now. Whereas in the past, I have white friends, guys, who we talked about the Aubrey case. They didn't want to see the film. No, I can't see that. I want to watch it. Why? This is what's going on. You need to see this. This is the America you live in, right? And so I have a lot of white friends who are blind, and so therefore, white America has been in a situation where if I don't see it, I don't have to believe it or be held responsible. So therefore, I'm not gonna watch the news. No, don't show it to me. No, that can't be going on. No, these good, fine, upstanding officers would never do that, right? And so now all of a sudden, Mike, with all of this stuff happening rapid fire, like you're saying, it is forcing us to have to talk about it. And at some point in time, because the people are now at the same time forcing us to have to talk about it, and the people at the same time are realizing the voice that they have, be it rioting, be it protesting, be it whatever, realize that I have a voice. No, if we go on a social media campaign and post Auburn's picture and talk about it like crazy, they gonna have to talk about it. The more that kind of stuff happens, it does fast track us to make sure we have the right people in office. And my wife and I was talking about this yesterday. With everything in a high alert right now, and as crazy as it is, even the bad apples that Colin talked about, they have to be really careful with what their ass do right now. I can be a dirty cop or I can be a dirty judge right now, and dude, you are walking on.
You better lay low.
You better lay low, Mike. You better lay low, and so that alone helps us push the ball forward, because, like, dude, you can't throw your power around right now, right? Because you do that if you want to. Somebody is going to expose that right now in this point in time, and really blow that out of the water. Will we ever get rid of it? No, right? It'll always be there, but I think we can minimize it, and we can try our best to put things in the right perspective, in the right direction. And what's going on right now, I think, is going to help us get there much faster.
It's been good, man. We do got to wrap it up, man. We definitely went long, but I'm glad we did. This is a very important subject to talk about, but I have one final question, and it's really like, what you have 2 daughters, right? How old are they? 11 and 7?
11 and 7, dude.
I've got 2 boys, 10 and 6. What are you telling them?
It's tough, man. I'll be honest, man. Right now, they have not seen the news. We had a conversation about it starting last night. I was up at 12 o'clock and my daughters were up late, and they caught wind or something like, why are all those people down there in Chicago riding? What's going on, Dad? And I'll be honest, guys, I wasn't ready to have that conversation, right? So I haven't had it. I haven't had that conversation yet with them. That's a challenging conversation to have, because now it's going to be a lot of questions into well, why would they do that? Well, why would they do this? And like you were saying earlier, I don't want the lack of trust when it comes to police officers, right? Because, this is at the age where police officers come to school and, this is officer friendly, and your kids this is who they can trust and believe in, right? So how do you have those conversations, man, with African-American kids at this age? I don't know, Colin. I'm praying about it now, to be honest with you, man. I'm thinking about it because it is a conversation I do have to have, because even here in Naperville, my wife just last night about 1 a.m, we had a rally at the park around the corner. And we were like, well, was that for Floyd? And so, which it wasn't, but it was for our city just kind of put a statement out, of inclusion and diversity, and that Naperville supports that. And somebody in the park up the street just wrote "White Pride," spray painted "White Pride" on the back of the bathroom in big letters. I mean, it's like a big billboard. And they just kind of spray painted "White Pride" on it, right? And so it was the neighborhood coming together and said, "Dude, we don't stand for that." We're not for that. They put up like a reward money to find who did it. So little stuff like that right there, man, I got to have conversations with them because they're in this environment and I don't want them clueless, right? But at the same time, I don't want them afraid, right? And so therefore, I as a black parent, man, I don't know, dude. As a parent in general, I don't know. I think my challenge is greater. And I say that, Colin, no disrespect to you, right? But I think it's greater because lives are on the line, right? I mean, no offense, but cops aren't killing white men like that. I mean, I look at videos of what white men do to cops. They'll get out of the car. You should have. What the hell you put me over for? I mean, let a black guy do that, dude. You are like gunned down, right? And white cops, I mean, white men, you guys just challenge the cops like it's none other. Do you know who you dealing with? Y'all go off on the cops, and we like, yes, sir. No, sir, Mr. Ball. I can't, and so for the sake of my kids, just safety, at some point in time, I got to address it on how to do this, what to do, but at the same time, how do I do that and still have them feel powerful and not weak, or feel less than as a result. So long story short, dude, I haven't handled that conversation yet. I haven't had the strength to be able to do it or the words to be able to handle it.
Okay, so how about advice for me as a white father and what to say to my 2 white boys?
That's tough, man. I think
because I'm in the same place, dude. They haven't seen it. They,
Yep.
I think there's a natural tendency, especially right now as it's going on, is like you want to protect your children. I want to protect mine. I want to like keep them like away from all of the chaos, but like we all know long term that's not the right thing to do. We like maybe in the short term, but like I want to sit down with them. I want to have this conversation. I want to teach my children that that one of my best friends in the world is black, and and you can't judge somebody because of the color of their skin.
Yep. I agree, brother. I think that lesson right there is key though, Colin, right? Us talking about compassion and empathy up front with our kids. Say, listen, regardless of who it is, I don't care if they're disabled, gay, black, white, Indian, dyslexic, can't read. Hey, no. We love everybody. No. Hey, listen, no. And it's us correcting that behavior, right? So if I hear my kids talking about someone, right? It's me that, whoa, what's going on there? No. Why would you do that? How do you think that makes that person feel? Why would you put them in that category like that? And so it's me really calling my kids to the fire, not just on racial issues, right? Because we're talking inclusivity all around the board, right? I mean, right now, this is just one situation of many gays and lesbians, man. We're talking about disabled veterans. Dude, it's a bunch of issues that our country puts a blind eye to that are going on of people being discriminated against that need an advocate to fight for them. And this is just happens to be the large one that we're talking about right now that's out there. But I'm trying to have that compassion and empathy talk with my kids now and really gauge in how they're doing with including people, making people feel welcome. When they talk about somebody in their class who couldn't read or something of that nature, they're calling, I address that. Well, what did you do about that? What were the kids laughing? What did you do? Okay, tomorrow I want you to go back, apologize to that person, tell them you're sorry for that. Talk to the other kids when they talk about this kid. You stand up for that kid. Right? And it's us showing them at this age how to be an advocate, right? Yeah. How to be an advocate for everybody. And I think we got to throw a blanket out there for everyone so that they understand it's not just what I care about. So that's where we get in trouble when we talk about diversity and inclusion. We tend to care about what's deepest and closest to our hearts. And that's where we get in trouble. No, inclusivity is about everybody being treated equally and fairly. Even if I don't believe in gay rights, even if I don't believe that's not my deal, but no, still, because you're a human being, dude, I got love for you, man. And I'm gonna help support you and not allow you to be beat up or disenfranchised as a result of whatever you have or wherever you are. And that's the challenging part of us picking and choosing. I think we need to really do a broad net with our kids of not picking and choosing but then reel it back then and say, okay, so remember that big situation we're talking about? Here's one incident that I want you to see right now of that's going on right here. That's one of multiple things that's going on in the world, but here's one that's going on that we're going to talk about, and that's bringing it back to what's kind of going on today.
It's good. Yeah, I mean, even hearing you say a lot of that, like, makes me feel somewhat confident, and at least in some of the direction that I have been doing, because definitely have the conversations. You know, it hasn't been, you know, talking about, you know, race by any means.
Right,
It's been more of like bullying. You know, it's like, hey, like, is bullying happening in your school? Like, you know, what happens when you see somebody being bullied? And, you know, my oldest is about to go into middle school, and, you know, it's only going to get more prominent as they go on throughout their lives. So it's like, we've been having those conversations, but it's been very much the same. It's like, son, listen to me. I don't care. Like, you treat everybody with respect, everybody the same. And if you ever see anybody getting bullied, you do something about it. Like, you tell a teacher, and if there's no teachers around, then I expect you to step in. Like, I expect you to keep it from happening. And so we're having those conversations, which, man, dude, I think life is hard. Add parenting
Tough, dude.
while you're doing
Tough, dude.
parenting is like the hardest thing I've ever had to do.
Well, it's tough because they see it, right? And so now you take this stuff from the eyes of a kid who's innocent, who doesn't understand anything, and now you have to explain adult-like conversations.
Right.
The kids, like, Dad, why is everybody around the country, everywhere, coming outside to do this? What's going on? That's tough. That's tough for a 7-year-old to fathom or even grasp. So it's challenging.
Yeah, very much so. And, like, I'll say this, like, as we start to wrap up, you know, obviously having a very heavy Gainesville, Florida audience. I'm really proud of the way our community has, you know, really taken action. And the things that I've seen in terms of the community coming together, the march that took place, like, it was inspiring. The photo, like, I saw a lot of photos that people took. Just really, I mean, I look at them as the things that are going to be in the next history book, you know, and I like, man, like, these photos will live on forever, and they have a ton of meaning. I'm super proud of Gainesville.
And I am as well. When I saw those pictures, man, it was awesome to see. But back to what Mike said earlier, truth be told, until we address the underlying issue, right, they'll just be pictures.
Right.
I mean, we have, you know, this is just me being totally transparent here, guys. We have beautiful pictures that we memorialize of Dr. King giving I Have a Dream speech. Oh, man, did you see all the people out there in Washington, D.C. that day? But, guys, 50-some years later, things changed, right? A lot, you know, because a lot of laws have not changed, right? Because of the underlying issue that we're not diving deep in. And so we can't allow just the pictures and the people coming together and that piece there to stop there. And that's my biggest fear. My biggest fear is, okay, after this dies down, let's just say something does happen to the officers right there. What happens now? Is this something that's just brushed away and like, okay, yep, we did it, guys, we handled it? You know, no, this is we got to make sure we're not minimizing the problem with Floyd, right? That's the only issue, right? That's what brought everything to the forefront. And now we have to continue to push and fight to say, no, okay, now let's get deeper and see what's going on here and really dive deep into this systematic issue, the systematic issues, and see how do we change that stuff and what is that like? And that's what we can't forget.
Yeah. What should Mike and I do moving forward?
Dude, what you guys are doing, man, it's having those conversations. It's being comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah, I'm super.
And that's what
super uncomfortable.
But most white males aren't willing to put themselves in that situation. Why? Because that's a powerless situation.
Well, I'm like even reflecting back on this hour and a half, thinking, man, like I hope I said things the right way. I'm like, I hope I didn't, you know, like you sometimes feel like in situations like this, you got to kind of be in the middle and try to like navigate both sides. And
we live in a soundbite world,
dude. I know. Yeah. Somebody's going to take 60 seconds and something will be taken out of complete context. And, you know, you can be made out to look like a bad guy. And so then when all your intent is like, dude, I want to end racism. I want to support my Black friends, and I want them to have the same rights that I do. And I don't want this privilege. Like, I don't want them to dude, we'll just keep having the conversation and keep
right. And that's the key right there. Not allowing them to shut you up because of that, right? Because of the sound bites, us knowing, and this is where being confident in who you are has to be there. Right. And this is why it's so tough, guys. This is why it's tough to lead, because to lead means you're willing to put yourself out there and people beat you up. And you to still not stop. To say, you know what? That I'm going to address that. That's not the case. Here's why. Here's where that came from. Here's what I meant by that. Here's what happened. And I'm not going to allow that to stop me from my ultimate cause. And so understand that, yeah, a lot of the people who are filled with hate, who want this kind of stuff to stop, they will come in something like this and cut it up, make it seem crazy. And hell, I have Black friends that'll probably hear some of the things that I said on here today, use sound bites on that and say, look at this Uncle Tom guy. What is he doing? Right? Why is he out here bashing these white guys? Because that's not the way. That's not the way. And so therefore, we have to do what we're called to do, which is lead. And I want you guys to continue doing what you're doing, which is leading, having those challenging conversations, being comfortable, being uncomfortable, saying, hey, I don't understand it, guys, but I'm compassionate and I'm empathetic, right? Some of the stuff I think is crazy, but I'm compassionate and I'm empathetic, right? Hey, I wouldn't want my business burned to the ground. I kind of side with that. But at the same time, I wouldn't want my son killed in a routine pullover either. Colin, you can imagine coming home with Schaefer, dude, saying what? He did what? He was pulled over by the cops, Colin, they shot him and killed him. What do you mean? Right? And so that right there would put you in anger as well, to kind of go through something of that nature there as well. And so putting ourselves in others' shoes right now is definitely going to be a huge, huge deal for us to be able to do that and not point fingers and not put the blame, and be comfortable saying, I don't have the answers, but I'm willing to talk about it. I don't have the answers, but I'm willing to talk about it. Because this isn't a problem that we can solve tonight. If it was, it wouldn't be here.
I definitely don't have the answers, but I hope somebody does. And I hope that through this, we can create those answers, as a family and as a human race, man. Like, I'm just super grateful that you came on and had this conversation with us, man. Like, I respect the heck out of you. I love you so much. And I knew doing something like this would really get me outside of my comfort zone. And I don't think that I did a great job, to be honest.
You did a phenomenal job. Dude, listen.
But
just by showing it to the table was phenomenal. You and Mike. I love you guys, man. Look,
I love you too, man.
How many people you guys think doing this? Most people aren't being willing to be uncomfortable and put their thoughts and views out there. This is like politics and money. Let me be quiet on this one, right? Yeah. And if I just be quiet, maybe no one just ask me my thoughts. But you guys are really putting yourself out there, man. I'm proud of you guys for that, man. And that's how change starts, with you using your platform and using your voice for the disenfranchised, for those who don't have a voice. And that goes back to what I was saying in the beginning. The white male has a strong voice. Understand this, guys. It's things and places you guys can get into, I cannot. Is it right? No. Is it true? Yes. And so therefore, you guys can open the door and kick the bleep down so that other people can kind of come through. And that's you using your voice to be able to be an impact for others who may not have a voice. And this is why you get comfortable being uncomfortable and doing the things that you guys are doing, because you can open that door for others who cannot.
All right, Mike, we just got to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Man. Well, this has been like I said, a learning experience for me for sure. The one thing that I will say is that, like, and then I'll let Mike sign us off, but like I refuse to be silent. and I'm going to push myself to refuse to be silent. I always speak my mind, and there are plenty of things that heck, even between Mike and I, we don't agree on a lot of things. But that's why I value this relationship and our business, partnership, because we're always coming in with different perspectives and really putting ourselves in each other's shoes. And but at the end of the day, all of this, this in particular comes down to one thing. And that's suffocating hate, man. Suffocating hate. You guys, we cannot continue to go down the path that we've been going down on. We have to suffocate hate. I am one who's all about building up other people and uplifting people and just love, man. Love. Love always wins. I believe that with all my heart. We're been repeating Bible verse after Bible verse in my head, do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. And, those types of things have just continued to radiate inside of me. And I don't know, man.
Can I say one thing on that, Colin, before we sign off, Mike? And I'm sorry, I got to stop you in your tracks on that, dude, a little bit, because I think we look at the suffocate hate as the bigger issue, right? Which is the issue that causes so much pain and hurt. But I think there's another smaller issue that we have to also tackle, which is the better than issue. Yeah, I may not hate you, but I don't want you to be better as equal with me. But I don't hate you. But no, I want my privilege. I still want my rights. But I don't hate you. I don't hate you, because I think there's a lot of white males who they don't hate, but at the same time they're like, but now I'm not saying we should be on the same level. We shouldn't be equal. We shouldn't have equal opportunity now. But I don't hate. So I think we got to really make a clarity with that, because some people say, yeah, man, I'm stomping out hate. And they say there's not a hateful bone in my body, but then there is this privilege bone, and there is this bone of saying, but I got to be a little bit better than you. So therefore, I'm not going to give you everything I have, allow you to get in this situation as a result of that. So I just want to really make that clarity when we're going through it, to not just go to the ultimate extreme of hate, because we do have to do that. But there's something else that's there other than just hate, which is this privilege that we have to be willing to bring equality to all at the same time.
So, yeah, I just want to thank you, Alex, for being here with us and giving us your leadership, your wisdom, your voice on this topic and really all topics. I know how much you mean to Colin, and this is really one of our first interactions, me and you, but I appreciate you so much for doing this with us. I'll say, for me, this is a census year. We're in 2020. I think that real change starts with a government that reflects its people. Yep. If that's female, male, if we're 52% female, 48% male, that's what our government should look like. Black, white, down the board. The government should reflect the people. And then I want to thank God, thank Colin. Not Colin, but I want to thank Colin for using this platform. Thank God for filling your heart to do this. I didn't ask for my voice on this topic to be heard, but I'm thankful that God put it in Colin's heart to do this today. I've joked with him on the side about, hey, let's liven things up a little. Let's talk about some of these more confrontational matters. And we've had discussions about it and have kind of stayed away from it. But I'm glad, and I commend you, Colin, for using this platform to talk about this, because it does matter. And I'm happy to be here, and I'm proud of you for doing it. It's uneasy, it's nervous, but I'm proud of you for doing it.
Definitely.
Thanks, man. I mean, I'm sure it's a seat at this point, right? I'll be honest, I've told Mike multiple times, I'm like, man, I do not want our podcast to become just another political podcast. But I think ultimately, when we get into the scope of why we're doing it, right? We're doing this, especially when you start diving into Gainesville. You start in the missions of connecting students to business owners, attracting businesses to Gainesville, and really building up, and really just ultimately building up Gainesville. I mean, look, politics are going to play a role in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And these types of issues are going to play a role in it. And so we can't just like ignore them, right? We have to bring them to light and talk about them and discuss them. And I'm not going to have the answers. And that's why I hope I have more podcasts where I just come on. Like, I feel like I did a lot of listening in this episode. And so hopefully there's more of that where I'm just coming on and I'm just listening, and, you know, I'll just keep pressing forward, man. But thank you. Thanks to both of you guys. And I'm sorry that this, like, I feel like we're going on like 2 hours now. So I apologize for the length of it, but you know, it's important stuff. So awesome. Well, I'll just sign off and say that this is the WHOA GNV podcast, the podcast bringing you businesses and individuals that make you go, whoa. Alex, give us your best whoa, brother.
Whoa.
We will see you later, everybody. Bye.
Bye.